Let's do an audio check. Kelly, can you hear us?
Hello? Yeah, I can hear you. I can't see any. I can't see a
Oh.
camera or anything.
Yeah, I hadn't turned it on yet. It is on now.
Yep, I can hear you too.
Great.
All right, so yeah, Kellen, Randy and Don in the room. We've got Lauren Little, Mayor Church and Jerry Cleworth, myself and Olivia Lunsford. We think Scott Grass is going to join us.
Yeah.
Don't know in person or online. But it is. Go ahead.
Mayor Hopkins is not going to be able to make it today.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. So Scott comes in, we'll let you know. But it's 2:31, so I think we'll just go ahead and get started here. For our work session for the policy board meeting for tomorrow, October 22nd at noon. Page 13 in the staff report, just a few quick items. We did have our statewide MPO coordination meeting down in Wasilla. I don't think it was last week, I think it was the week before.
At least 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, who is that on the phone? Just so we can get that for the record. Thanks for joining.
It's Michelle.
Okay, hey, Michelle.
Hi.
And Corey has joined us as well in the room. So I came home from that meeting down in Wasilla with a pretty confident set of numbers for our 2026 sub allocations for fast planning. I performed the calculations on my own using the federal formula. DOT did that as well, and our numbers matched to the exact dollar. So I'm pretty comfortable using those in our next tip. Administrative modification amendment to update our revenue amounts. The only thing that's kind of hanging out there is some carryover funds, since all of our funds were not obligated last year. We also have some kind of boutique funds, carbon reduction program funds that we get programmed, but then they were obligated, and it wasn't because there was a missed obligation on the DOT side, or it was because the local government sponsor didn't decide to move forward with that money, and so that was the thing for the side. So we know what the pool of money is for carryover, but it's a mix of our funding and a mix of funding for the Matsu NPO down there. And so we've got to perform some forensic accounting to figure out what share of the carryover is ours and what share of the carryovers is Matsu. So I'm still working on that behind the scenes. But it was a good meeting down in Wasilla, and I did come home with a lot of the answers I was looking for. We also held a meeting with our seasonal building task force, which is all of our area maintenance managers, to develop a plan for the winter maintenance forum event this year. And it's going to be a different format than previous years, rather than put our maintenance managers up on the stage and have them do public speaking and give a presentation. We're doing more of an open house style event where they'll each get to create their own booth and share whatever information they would like to share with the public with regard to their operations and maintenance plan for this coming winter. If you've got any swag that they would like, poll people that come in with any questions that might be running on their mind, or maybe clear up some misconceptions about the use of brine on our roadway, those types of things.
Yes.
That's scheduled for October 28th, so next Tuesday at the Nolan Library. Tonight is our long range transportation plan open house, first workshop with the public, and we'll have a similar setup. Those going to be stations with different boards going over our goals and objectives, and area maps, and learning about people's needs or deficiencies they see in our transportation network that we need to identify a project to take care of. Also opening the door to any project ideas that the general public has. So a couple different stations there for folks to give us feedback.
And pizza.
And we have pizza.
And where's that one at? Tess?
Nolan Library as well tonight, yeah, 5:30 to 7.
And are we doing anything in North Pole as well for that MTP effort?
We weren't planning to do an open house in North Pole, but we can do Lydia's planning to do pop-up events throughout the community, like JP Jones Center. So we could do a pop-up, perhaps like at the library, North Pole, or is there might be a better venue?
Library, City Hall, I mean, we have some options.
Okay.
Hotel North Pole.
I think it's right then public. The past.
We could, if it was an open house and you wanted to gain some sort of answer quick response, maybe set up in the new Three Bears. They have that long entryway, you could set up a small table maybe in there.
If they're into that, that's more the public comment pop-up style.
Yeah.
It's like going to breweries and just having a table and.
And more that sort of thing, you know, we have the ale house in North Pole, could
Sure.
also be an option. There was a fairly good group. The prior time with GBA at the ale house.
Okay.
When
Well,
Travis
the
came
ale house,
out. And grab a beer and sit down and listen and best of both worlds.
People get really talkative when they have a.
They
have it
do,
in their hand.
I mean, it helps.
Yep.
It helps with.
You know how they really feel.
People aren't really shy anymore.
Yeah. Okay, well, Olivia will make note of that, when she's outlining her pop-up events. We also have a public survey that is live as of today. Just a few simple questions, but the main thing is it points you to an interactive map to point out your transportation need or deficiency or project idea on the map. So that's live and we're gonna have that available to fill out through November 11th. That's not right now. So a couple weeks here. See, under correspondence, we have, amidst the government shutdown, we have continued our interagency consultation with the EPA and federal highways on lifting the air quality conformity freeze. To recap from last month, we had an interagency consultation meeting, I think it was in September, where both the EPA and federal highways asked for some new model runs to be included in the report that was delivered to them. Those were completed and a revised report was turned back into those federal agencies via email. The EPA accepted the revised report and concurred with lifting the conformity freeze. And so next step is federal highways needs to write us one-page letter stating that the conformity freeze is lifted. And EPA gave them the paragraph they need to insert in there to make it legitimate. But it is going to be a joint letter from federal highways and FTA. Early last week, though, federal highways had a few additional comments. They wanted a couple other attachments to the report and they made some minor revisions and track changes. And so our consultant team right now is working on a second round of revisions to the report to get back to federal highways and the Federal Transit Administration. But it's all looking good that it's in it, but we just keep getting these little week to week delays in the process. But we hope to have everything resolved by next week and turn back in. And really looking forward to that letter, especially so that we can rescue Holstees. That in our next 10 minutes, get that back off construction. Also under correspondence, I've written 3 letters of support this month. Well, one late last month. One was for the city of Fairbanks' grant application to the T-Mobile Hometown Grant Program. This is for the Lacey Street Starter Block Project. That was given to me by the chief of staff at City of Fairbanks with like a 3 or 4 day deadline to get it turned in. So since you're all aware of what's going on and it was the city applying for it, I took the liberty of going ahead and writing that and provided it to them so they could include it in the application. I think they needed 5 letters. But more recently here, and that's not normal process. Typically, I like to bring these letters to the technical committee policy board, but considering the time constraint, I took the liberty to do that. But we do
Deeply
have,
offended Jackson.
well, I thought that was the same point. Like, I don't think I'm gonna get in trouble for doing this, especially if the city's asking for it. I have 2 members on our board. But I did get 2 more requests for letters of support from the borough for 2 applications for the Alaska Federal Lands Access Program or FLAP grant. One application is for Tanana Lakes Recreation Area, and another application is for Chino Lake Recreation Area. So I'm doing my due diligence. It's on the agenda. It's action item tomorrow for to approve those letters. And make it official.
Heck yeah, it takes down.
Yeah. Next page, page 14. I think I already went over this, but yeah, our public survey is live. First public survey for the long range transportation plan update. Our open house is tonight, 5:30 to 7:30 at the library. Also want to make note that the 3 of us participated on the KUAC Fall fundraiser phone bank. So we were on air accepting funds over the phone. And then, yeah,
We surpassed our goal
oh, yeah.
6 times. The
Yeah.
goal was 2,000 and our group, we took in about 12,000 in donations.
Yep. Yep, it was, very successful. Yeah, winter maintenance forums next Tuesday, October 28th. Last thing on this funding side, I'm working on both an administrative modification and an amendment to our TIP, our Transportation Improvement Program. The administrative modification will take care of a lot of the minor revisions, minor funding changes, et cetera, which is actually the bulk of the changes that I might plate right now. But that way we can fast track all those changes to approval at the next possible meeting on November 19th. There really is just a couple projects that trigger an actual amendment to the TIP, which we've got to release for 30 days. This would include our fast and, well, may or may not include our fast improvement program, but it's definitely gonna trigger the fast area ADA improvements program. The DOT is pushing a lot of statewide CMAQ dollars into, as well as our main statewide CMAQ program for air quality projects. So quite a few increases in there with there's about $14 million in statewide CMAQ funding that needs to be spent as soon as possible before it lapses. So DOT is really working hard behind the scenes to identify projects to use with that statewide funding source. A lot of which are falling in our area. So that's the primary subject of the amendment. And then hopefully conformity freeze is lifted, we can include the construction phase for Olstee's to get that moving to construction here this coming summer.
Is there a percentage of CMAQ funding predicated to ADA improvements and upgrades?
No.
Okay. Just any projects that come along that make sense.
It has pretty strict criteria. You do have to demonstrate the carbon reduction. But there's extra paperwork with CMAQ, but things like bike ped facility, non-motorized facilities. I think the EV program is LP under CMAQ. So you can't go repave a road with it, but things that contribute towards removing carbon from the transportation system.
When I think ADA, I think accessibility issues, sidewalks,
Correct.
crossings, things like that.
Yep.
All legitimate to use. I know that Santa Claus Lane in North Pole, the main drag, has some ADA issues as far as not being up to 100% now. As far as the ramp accessibility and the hearing impaired.
Oh, you've got automated crossing.
No,
Things.
but we're required to put some of those in. Maybe we should talk about this after this, but
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if there was a portion of that predicated to ADA, so. Thank you.
And just, one word of warning on Old Steve's, we still have the state match issue. So what you see in STIP Amendment 2 is all the state can afford for FY26 for match. So that, we're hoping for it too, but I just want everyone to understand the realities that are still under there.
That was a question in my mind, but I wasn't gonna ask the question.
We're going in front of AGC to talk about it Thursday as well. We're all still hopeful. As Sarah Schopper, I still remember her back in the COVID days. Hope is not a strategy. It is a good quote. It's really stuck with me.
Yeah, and then behind that is just that letter of support that I have for the city. And the first action item is the operating agreement and metropolitan planning area boundary update, page 16. Has the recommendation from the technical committee that the policy board approved the formation of a working group to look at the operating agreement changes. But only after the metropolitan planning area boundary has been approved by the governor. That was a recommendation and it was unanimous, even with the state seats voting in favor of that motion.
Talk to those characters.
And then page 17 is just a reminder to the policy board that discussion of this item was tabled back in February. So to me, this has been a bit uncomfortable to discuss and debate when the board has already decided to table the item. Looking at Robert's Rules of Order, my understanding of the process from the book is that if you want to take a motion from the table, anyone can make that motion. It needs a second. It's not debatable during that meeting. And you have to immediately call the roll call vote. If majority says aye, then you can discuss it and make new motions on that item. I don't think this falls under the category of reconsideration. This appears to fall under take from the table. Considering the specific words that were used in the motion in February.
So I want to provide some clarity. What you guys were looking at back in February was a proposed set of changes, right? DOT handed you here's what we would like to see change in the operating agreement. I'm not bringing that back to the table. I am saying I would like to form a working group to look at what should be amended in the operating agreement. So to me, this is a different conversation than the February conversation where DOT was saying, here are the proposed changes we'd like to see. This is a different ask and a different strategy, and quite frankly, a different set of issues in my mind than where we were in February.
So we'll have to, I guess, discuss that tomorrow. It's up to the chair to decide how the order of businesses should go.
It's normally, we don't ever use the term tabling at a council meeting because essentially you're killing it. You're just voting no. So, our parliamentarian, who's our city clerk, will jump on you if you try and use that motion. There is nothing that prohibits anyone from being dilatory. I could introduce something at this meeting and that could be a resounding no. And the Caroons but the next meeting, I can actually reintroduce it. That is being dilatory, absolutely, but there is nothing that prohibits us from not doing it again and again and again. You shouldn't do it, but nothing prohibits you from doing it. I do agree with Lauren to the point that there are kind of different items here. The first one was a letter from Ryan Anderson. I think that's what you're referring to in the original one. And we said no to that. This one is to form a committee, so. Unless I'm overruled by the board and they have that right. My position would be there are different items, but regardless of that, tabling killed that. And I mean, Lauren or anybody could bring that up again and again and again if they wanted to. I wouldn't advise it.
I have
Yeah.
no plans.
But that's my understanding of Mr. Roberts' rules.
Yep.
That'll probably be what I say tomorrow, so I think it's
I think
allowed.
it'd be good to start this conversation out with a conversation about the process.
Yeah. Now we can bring that up. If they think I'm all wet on that, then they can overturn that, so. But that's my memory of it over the years being this. I don't know how the borough handles it. No borough people here, so. I don't know,
No.
Kellen, have you ever seen that happen at the borough assembly meeting with tabling?
You probably don't want me talking about Robert's rules. I can I could ask the experts, but I'm not gonna take a position on that.
Okay, I just wondered if you ever, what the borough clerk over there does when people try to make that motion. Do they ever use that motion? Actually, I should ask. Do you recall it being used?
I have seen tabling before, but I forget the context.
Yeah, okay. Do you do that at the planning commission? No. Anyway, we'll get to it.
Okay. Yeah, and just to make note in the packet there, we do have some new information from Anchorage. You know, at a previous meeting, I don't know if it was March or April, there was discussions about a legal review. Municipality of Anchorage did do a legal review in-house with their deputy municipal attorney. And that attorney worked with federal highway staff on some of the legal assertions raised by DOT. So there is 20 pages of a legal memo from the Anchorage attorney.
So again, no, Jackson, none of that is relevant to what the ask is today, right? This is not related to a set of, legal assertions. This is simply there's some things not working for DOT. And we would like to have technical, put a team together and get us a clearer operating agreement. And, I think quite frankly, putting all of this in here is just dredging up things that we should be moving fast in the interest of working together to make sure we don't ever end up in this. We have no dispute resolution procedures at all. We have no means to address federal payback. As I brought up, Pearl Creek gets killed, the state is on the hook for that, roughly, I think it's $5 million that's been spent, but we would have to pay the feds back for a no action decision by this policy board. So I think there's some holes, and quite frankly, we're having the same conversation in Anchorage, as well, like, this is great. We have two different legal opinions, it doesn't matter. And that's quite frankly what this policy board kind of voted on back in whatever that was when you chose not to seek outside legal counsel, because that was the whole conversation was, well, so we can get a lawyer, and what happens if they disagree with DOT? Is DOT gonna take that legal opinion and just do what we say? Well, clearly not, right? And so I was quite frankly, Jackson, a little disappointed to see all of this in here, because I don't think that it's relevant to the current ask, nor do I think it's helpful spirit of cooperating and ensuring we don't end up here in this who has authority conversation again. I don't think it's healthy or helpful to argue over who has authority. Federal Highways has authority. That is who has authority. Period. At the end. They're either going to approve a project or not approve a project. And we don't dispute that stance. I want to figure out how we work through some of these areas that are not clear in operating, and that's what we say in the AMATs as well. So that's just I was disappointed to see the 20-page letter from the municipal attorney that quite frankly, our legal counsel does not entirely agree with. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. I want to work together to better serve our community and not be in these turf wars in the future.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. Fast planning, banking, and investment options. I put together a short staff memo here. I will say we haven't done a lot of research, but did talk to Mayor Church. I did talk to Margarita Bell, CFO at the City of Fairbanks. With regard to some investment and banking options, I did visit with Mount McKinley. I did visit with Key Bank. And some of my key assumptions going into this research is that, we've got $1 million in a checking account that's not making any interest or not making any money for us. In my mind, I'm comfortable having enough money in an accessible account for 4 to 6 months of our operating costs, so that we have that cash flow. Looking at the numbers there, I think my opinion is, not an accountant and not a financial advisor, I think we could potentially invest up to 700,000 of that $1 million, and I would be comfortable with our daily operations. But the $696,000 of our account is membership fees that if this corporation were to dissolve, they need to be paid back to local governments. So in my opinion, we need a low risk investment. We need to protect that principle. That's what we're going to choose to invest. The different options that I discussed with the two banks, as well as the CFO at the City of Fairbanks, was Mount McKinley now has an interest bearing checking account. It's not great. It's 1%. There are monthly deposits for that. You can do better if you put your money into a CD. The numbers shown on page 42, those CD numbers, I don't think you're entirely right. There's a lot of options for CDs. But at the end of the day, with Mount McKinley and Key Bank, you're going to get right around 3.5%. They will compete with each other. They will match each other's rates. Some of these conversations are feels like you're being sold something. But through this process, in talking to Mayor Church and the CFO at City of Fairbanks, I kept hearing this thing come up, AMLET. I didn't know what that was. It's the Alaska Municipal League Investment Pool. I do see that the City of Fairbanks, City of North Pole, and the Fairbanks North Star Borough are all invested into that fund pool. It's currently sitting around, getting really close to $1 billion in that fund pool. I believe the city has a couple $100 million in it, and is one of the biggest investors. Looking at their portfolio and their return rates over the last couple of years, I can say it seems like we would get 4 to 4.5%. And talking to KeyBank about that option versus, an interest-bearing account or a CD, they're like, that's the best that we can offer you. That's the best thing going if you can get into that pool. Marguerite developed the city also thought the same. I talked to Mount McKinley Bank about this investment pool. They don't participate in that pool. So we would have to go through KeyBank to open up that account. I did reach out to AML, their director, Nels, and, posed a question if we joined as a member of AML and, considering the status of our organization that was created by our local governments, would we be eligible to participate? He asked me to send him all of our operating documents, which I did. He passed those on to legal counsel and he cleared our eligibility. So we could participate in that investment pool if we'd like. But it comes down to the question of, I don't know what I don't know. I mean, are there other options the board wants me to look into? Are there other banks you want me to reach out to? Do you want me, or with my key assumptions, is there anything else you want me to assume or tweak? And then potentially, like, do you want us to sit down with the independent financial advisor, have a consultation, and maybe we'll learn more about other options? I feel like this isn't a decision that we need to rush into. I think we can take our time with this. But from my limited research, it seems like everybody I talked to pointed me in the same direction towards the AML investment pool. So that's what I learned. There's more information about that pool in the pages behind us. And,
That is a great pool to be involved in. What I don't see here is Mount McKinley also has a 9-month CD that pays fairly comparative rates. I think they're right at 3.567, somewhere in that low threes, which was an option that the city of North Pole looked at as a 9-month CD.
3.62.
Okay.
Today it's 3.62.
Okay.
Yep.
So that is an option if we wanted to try and move forward with that on a 9-month, and then give us plenty of time to decide after that 9 months what we wanted to do. I just think it's important if we have money sitting around and not earning anything or not doing due diligence to the money itself. And even if we're earning 2%,
Mhm.
something's better than nothing, and that goes to help offset any of our costs.
So I agree.
Mount McKinley's also looking at another vehicle.
Yep.
I was talking to Jackson about it briefly, but it's at the end of each day, they sweep your account overnight, and you have 2 options. You can do it, sweep it into other banks that have FDIC, so you never have exposure in case of a bank failure. Or you don't care about that, you can do a sweep into a different system, which I assume pays a higher interest rate. But they're just looking at that now. It's in its infancy. I don't think they're offering it yet as a product, but I'm wondering, Jackson, is that the AML investment pool, does that require a deposit, like a time deposit, or is it a sweep also?
I'm not aware that it's a sweep. My understanding was it's a deposit. And there's no fees associated with it, and we can access it. We make withdrawals with, depending on what series you grow, either within 1 day or within 3 days.
Okay. Assuming $1 million and assuming we need about 700,000 for. I'm not too worried about us going out of business in 9 months or anything like that. None of us are. What would you need if the whole, I'm a horrible scenario where, but if everybody quit, what kind of money would you need in that account? To cover that? Somebody. What resigns or whatever, and they get paid, you gotta pay out the accumulated leave time, everything.
It'd be under 50,000 for that, but then you also have, lease obligation that you gotta fulfill. There's also open contracts, with their IT service provider. There's things like that that you can button up within, say, 30 days and close accounts, or keep them open until you restaff the organization. But as far as immediate payout, yeah,
What number gives you a good comfort?
100,000. If it was something like that immediately after.
So if we go with AML or something like that, then I think we could comfortably go up to 900,000. But I'm hoping tomorrow at the board meeting, we come up with that number for you.
Yep.
What we feel comfortable with and whichever, but I mean, I think AML is gonna be hard to beat for percent. Edward Jones is that the broker over there, they do a little bit better than the banks, but not much better. But I'd feel comfortable with AML. I'll try and get Margarita before our meeting tomorrow and see if we just cut a check or they can do a sweep or how they're doing it actually.
That sounds good. And if you guys decide to go that route, there is a resolution when you bring to the board to open up a,
It's a wire transfer. It's $20 to wire that money over from McKinley to AML and then we're paid them. The sweep account that you guys were talking about, I looked into that program. I said that Valerie had a discussion about that in the program as well for the city of North Pole day-to-day funds. But the interest rate on that sweep is still, it's less than 2.5. It's double kind of what they're paying now, but not nearly as good as AML, and they just really can't beat, or even come super close to that. The 9-month CD is really the closest thing that they have. Yeah, which is what it is.
It's gonna be hard to beat them.
Yeah.
And then do we need to join AML then, or are we already
I think so. I haven't asked that question directly, but it would make sense. They're structuring it a little bit to allow us to participate. It's typically, you need to be a government unit. So,
And do we require that these funds be insured? Does that matter to us?
AML is through a trust, so it's a trust policy. So even if Key Bank was to close down and become insolvent, because AMLIP is part of a trust, that's protected through trust regulation. So there's no need to have insurance. We'd be guaranteed at least our initial investment back through trust regulations.
That's a new one on me.
It's a lot. Kevin down there at AML, he would sit down and talk with you and walk you through that and deciding which is best, series 1 or 2. Because they do have differentiating interest rates that they pay out.
Okay, well, we've got some good options.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for adding that.
Yeah. And again, if you guys want me to do more research or some other rabbit hole I need to go down. I learned a lot. I feel like there's more to learn.
We can invest in low income housing and build it ourselves.
Outside the box, Mr. Fletcher. I like it.
Or get in trouble for that, but.
All right.
Oh,
Your last action item is the 2 letters of support for the borough for the Alaska Federal Lands Access Program. Again, one's for Town Lakes, one's for Chino Lakes. I've got a simple 1-pager for each and figure for each that was provided to me by the borough. Town Lakes is looking at upgrading existing trails from gravel to pavement, building some viewpoints for the lake and the river, some wayfinding signage, trail connectors around the lake, and enhancing some of the trailheads. And then Chino Lake is a more kind of straightforward project. They said they want to build a trail north around the lake, where a trail doesn't currently exist. I believe with this grant opportunity, I don't know that funds would even be awarded till potentially 2027. It's a ways out. Since they have a lot of projects on the books right now, but they do have an open application period. I believe there's no match required for this. But we do need to put these in our discretionary grant table in our tip. That's something on my end to make sure that if they're awarded, it's in our plan.
Yeah, I think you're right about no match for plow.
Currently. And then the last thing I had for the meeting was obligations and offsets. This is federal fiscal year end. 100% obligations on the first page, but the second page, there's a few holes. I didn't see the obligation come through for the construction phase of University Avenue South bike and ped path. I don't know if that may be a early FFY 26 obligation. I know they were trying to wrap up that design and get out the bid, maybe didn't quite.
It's advertising right now.
Yeah.
Because I just approved a bid extension.
Okay.
So that is advertising, so I'm surprised that didn't make it here.
I don't see it on the obligation report that was given to me by project control, but it may have been siphoned off to some other category. It's. I didn't find it, as far as this obligation, it doesn't really make a lot of difference to me if it made the deadline for last year or if it's in this year. I just need to know where to show the money for federal fiscal year in our tip when I update it. I didn't see the obligation go through for the Borough Hybrid Fleet Vehicle Program. I know there were some questions from Federal Highways about that, so I don't know if that obligation is going to be made or if it's still on hold. We know the borough bike racks was not obligated. That was not taken to the assembly, so that money will be reprogrammed to other projects. The snow removal equipment for the borough though was obligated. And again, we're moving the North Pole High School access and circulation study to start this year, this federal fiscal year. So that money is just being moved from last year to this year's carried forward. So a few, I guess, questions there at year end, but I can make adjustments in our tip for FFY 26 to capture these if they are still planned obligations. Which I believe all but one may still be planned obligation. That's all I'm gonna have for you tomorrow, so it may not take a full 2 hours.
Don't underestimate that first action item of business.
Yep. We'll see how we handle that one.
I'm not worried.
Did I bring popcorn?
Paintballs.
I think they sell it, and make money. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
And Jackson, I did ask our project control to look into what fiscal year that phase 4 was.
Yeah.
Sure, before you leave, can I ask you about City of Fairbanks surplus equipment?
Thanks, Scott, for joining us.
Sorry.
The
to see that.
City of North Pole's looking at
Yeah.
street sweepers.
Or is it
Yeah.
right here?
Yeah.
Anything about street sweeper? I didn't know how often the city of